All right, I want to read you a quote. This was one that was falsely attributed for many years to Alexander Solzhenitsyn, but he didn't say it. We don't know who said it. It's unknown, but it's so true. It says, the most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the forced and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, their lives are, as they have lived them, well, they're over. The moment the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it is a form of suicide. They're literally killing off who they used to be, which is why when forced to take up violence, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with raw hate and a drive that cannot be fathomed by those who are merely play acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at these people's door, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy, but it will fall upon the deaf ears of the men who just wanted to be left alone. What a happy way to start off this episode. This reminds me of, what's the Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot. He didn't want anything to do with the Revolutionary War, but he got thrust into the middle of it. And if you haven't seen that movie in a while, God forbid you haven't seen the movie at all, you need to make haste and go watch it. By and large, I think Americans that have conservative values, okay, let's just throw that out there. If you tend to agree with me, what you really want in life is just to be left alone. You don't want governmental overreach. You don't want the many tyrannies that I list off all the time invading your life. But that's the world we live in. The overreach is real. They've overstepped their bounds, and here we are. And I have people who will come to me every now and then talking about doing live shows. I'll have people who will come and they'll meet me at a show and they'll say, I don't always agree with you on things. And I didn't know what to expect when I came to your live show, but they were like, we really enjoyed it. We really had a good time. I was like, well, my live shows are comedy shows. They're not there to pound you over the head with politics. But I often ask them, I say, what exactly is it that you disagree with me about? And they might list off something about women's rights, which is a euphemism for abortion, or they might talk about Trump. And I said, well, really, those are not the watershed issues in terms of what I truly think you disagree with me about. If I'm being honest, I think what it is people have told you what to believe about me. Because, somebody said something to me on social media the other day from a 50-second, 60-second reel that Brandon clipped off, and they wanted to argue with me. And they said, why don't you do this and say this and talk about this? I was like, listen, I've done, 825 episodes of this show at The Blaze over the course of the last 5 years? That's thousands of hours of me running my mouth. How many of those shows in their full context have you actually watched? No, don't judge me on a 50-second reel. Go watch the show. Go hear what we have to say here. The essence of what I try to explain to you guys on a daily basis is that at the end of the day, all we really care about, we just want to be left alone. We just want to be left alone. We want to be able to govern ourselves, govern our homes, govern our communities, our states, and to see our nation. Listen, Joe Biden's not coming to my house. Donald Trump's not coming to my house. Pick your candidate. They're not coming to hang out with me. They're not coming to, the picnic on the 4th of July. They're in Washington, D.C. They're up in their elite bubble making their decisions based off of what the bureaucrats determine. And we've got to live with the consequences of that. But the problem is it's starting to encroach to the point where it's not only affecting us politically, the politics, as the late, great Andrew Breitbart said, the politics flows downstream from culture. This is a show, the Chad Prather Show, this show is about culture. I want to point out to you consistently the things that will lead our culture to destruction. We're embracing some things, the old adage that says we've gotten so open-minded that our brains have fallen out. In some cases, we've gotten so utopia-driven or so, in our unicorn chasing, we've gotten ideologically into a fantasy world where we're so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good, right? We have these ideas about how people are supposed to be evolving into these, accepting and inclusive creatures. And I just want to remind you guys that in 1914, when the men marched off to war in World War I, they were going with this great hope because they thought this was the war to end all wars. They were excited when they went to war. They'd never faced the horrors of war on the scale of what the technological advancements that we had at that time. They'd never faced that in war as what they faced in World War I. They came back very scarred, emotionally damaged. It literally wiped generations of men off of the earth. France alone lost 10 million men, males. That's why it was so easy for Hitler to take over France in World War II, the escalation of World War II. There were no men to defend France anymore. World War I had depleted them of the male population. So the point is, they went with this optimism into war. In fact, the humanism at the time, there was a great practice, and you've heard me say this before, where they told people, they said, kind of a self-help, self-motivating thing. Every morning, look in the mirror and 20 times say, every day and in every way, I'm getting better. That is the creed of the humanist, because it makes man into God. And they had elevated humanism to the point of thinking, hey, we're getting better every day. And then World War I destroyed that paradigm. It destroyed that worldview. We have seen man's inhumanity to men. We have seen the atrocities of war, the murders of communism. We have seen the rise of Marxist socialism in our education. We have seen gender ideologies, sexual ideologies, all of these things that really should not be on the forefront of our mind, and certainly not on the forefront of the minds of our children. But yet we're dealing with this. This is further where we're having this overreach, and it's just not leaving us alone. I would love to say that, yes, we are reaching some utopian state where everybody's accepting of everybody else and everybody wants to include everybody else, and we just embrace diversity. But let me just tell you, people are people. And history tells us that people aren't designed to be that way. You look at others, you immediately judge them. Is that right? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It depends on the circumstance. But you do it. And you can't say you don't. You're sitting there, you come to my show, and you say, well, I didn't know if I was going to like you or not. I didn't know if I was going to like this show. I didn't know what I was going to get. See, you've already judged me. You prejudged me. You are prejudiced. You go through the ghetto. You go through the poor neighborhoods, you go through the trailer park, you go down in the holler, and you look around and, they got everything from people sitting on the porch to people with their washer and dryer in the front yard where they got to mow around it. You know what you do? You judge that. You might laugh at it, you scoff at it, you say things like, how can people live like that? You know why? Because you're not as utopian as you thought you were. Is that bad? Is it good? It's neither one. It's human nature to be that way. And so there's these forces, if you will, that are out there. Again, narrative and ideologically driven, that are reaching into your life and telling you how to believe and how to think and how to behave. And the reason you are feeling the angst inside of you to push back against that is because you just want to be left alone. It's okay for you to have your preconceived notions about the people around you. It's okay to do that. Now, is it okay to take that to a level where you want to express hate or, God forbid, even violence? No, that's not what I'm saying or even advocating for. I'm not even suggesting that. What I'm saying, though, is it's okay to be different. And it's okay to be okay with being different. You don't have to please anybody. There's language that's been now placed off limits, certain words you can't say. Words are being redefined. It affects everything we do in our society, how we communicate with one another, how we promote one idea in my brain to get to you. I can't put it in your brain without language. But we're being shut off. I mean, just this morning, tell you something silly. Just this morning, my buddy Graham Allen, he texted me early this morning, and they had suspended his Twitter account because he posted the video of the lady who said the other day, had the Freudian slip where she said Trump needs to be shot. I mean, stopped. You see that clip, that deal? So he posted it and just put her quote up there, and so they suspended his Twitter account for quoting her. Just for quoting her. It wasn't his words. This is advocating for violence was the deal. That was the warning. I think he's managed to get his Twitter back up, but they also had blocked some of his Facebook and stuff. I think he's gotten it all back up. But that's the ridiculousness of it. You can't just say things, you can't quote other people, and you can't be left alone. Now, it's getting to a point, I'm going to get into some of this today, it's getting to a point where the people who want to be left alone are starting to get pissed off. And I pray that it never comes to a point where there is legitimately violence. But those people that want to be left alone, if you take away that life from them, you're in essence killing them. You're killing their soul. You're killing their spirit. You're taking away the things that they've worked hard to have. You're taking away their values. They're taking away their standards and the things that they've come to hold dear. You're taking away their stuff in a lot of cases. I mean, you realize right now in Britain, they're literally, they have about 12 suicides a week from farmers because they're taking their land. And there's no more dangerous a man than the guy who has nothing left to live for. So keep poking and prodding and putting your hands in the affairs of people that just want to be left alone, and you're going to find yourself quite literally screwed, because eventually those people aren't going to take it anymore. So the message, in my opinion, of conservatism, I don't even like that word, but if you're going to, I don't like most anything with an ism on the end of it, including capitalism taken to an extreme. Anything with an ism, it tends to become a religion, so you got to be careful with that. So what I'm saying is, the essence, though, is to just say, I want you to keep your hands out of my pockets and off my life, and I want to be left alone. But they just aren't learning that damn lesson.